Hello, and welcome to another Graylog video. Today we're going to go over the new feature in Graylog 3.1, which is our correlation engine. I have one slide here to kind of quickly go over some of the thoughts behind a correlation engine, what you might use them for. So to talk a little bit about them, on the first one there we have the per field correlation. This is a benefit over the Graylog version 3.0, and that you can now create rules that could be for something like a logon failure, where we're grouping them by the logon name. So instead of just saying I've seen 10 logon failures in general over multiple people, we're seeing it grouped by person. So you could have one person with 3 login failures and one person with 8, and maybe your threshold is 5, and you can set the 5 would alert, but the 3 faileds won't, because it's all grouped on that username. The second option there is cross-event correlation. If you think of, I've seen an IDS log fire an alert, and then from that same IP that fired that IDS alert, I see it now logging onto my web server. Maybe you want to focus on that one. It's a little higher priority because you know it's nefarious coming in. You can also, in the third case, is look for that negative event. So if I see my web server shut down and I want to give it a minute or two, but then I expect to see that startup message happen again, I want that to happen. If it doesn't happen, fire me an alert. So we're going to look for the event of a shutdown, and then we do not see the startup event. So give me that alert. And the last one there is complex correlation. So all of this new infrastructure that we've built, with that correlation event, we put into a different event stream, and you can then take that and correlate it again on top of it. So you can build correlation rules on top of correlation rules to create a more complex rule set there. So now if I hop into the demo here that we have, this is the new screen. It's up here in the events tab. If I click on that one, you'll see I have a few different events here as they came in. First section here we'll talk about is the alerts. These are the actual alerts that have happened. These can come via email. You can post these to different web post methods if you'd like to. If I open one of them up, you'll see the ID of it, the priority that it happened at, the timestamp which is created, and then some of these event keys. So the event key is what you're doing the correlation on. So in this case, the brute force attack, I wanted to know if root would ever have been compromised. So I wanted to see some failed logons first, followed by the successful logon. And I'm going to correlate it all on that name. So that's going to be the key there, root. The additional field is something you can add in to these logs and into the alert message itself. In this case, I wanted to know the username so it could be seen, as well as maybe you want to have a source IP address or something like that in there so you know where that attack's coming from. You can do that through all the additional fields. Now the other side of this one is the events. Now the events is what makes that happen. So if taking one step back, as logs are brought into the system, we are then doing searches on those logs for different types of events. We'll go through the event definitions here in a second, but event could be something like a logon failure or a logon success. If I see that log message come through, I want to promote it to be an event. And the event does have its own stream as well, what's called all events. So we take a log message and copy it into our events stream. And then we put them up here on this screen as well. So although you might have many events come through here, we're only having a few alerts because the correlated event would show up on the alerts page. All the generic events that make up the correlation would show up here on the events page. So you can see coming through here, I have this one here, which is talking about multiple failed logon attempts. It does give you that aggregated number called 6. So there's 6 failed logon attempts, followed by that successful, which is how we got our brute force. I have a few other events in here, which I'll go through in just a second. And then as well as we have the idea of both, if you want to see them all in one picture, you can see it that way too. All right, so let's get into the definition side. How do we set this up? So in the definitions here, I wanted to create that brute force attack. So the first one I'm looking at is this failed logon attempt. That's the first part of the brute force attack. It needs to fail a few times before we start that correlation rule. So this one here, I'll give it a title, a priority. You can set that to high, medium, or low. For the normal event, I'm just going to make it a normal priority. Then I move over to the filtering side, and this is what am I looking for to make this event fire. Right. So here I have a query that I'm pulling off a certain metadata field in my log, saying my failed username. I'm going to look through different streams so we can restrict this correlation engine and the event creation to be into only streams that are needed. So maybe in this case you wouldn't want to put, an IDS type of an event creator into your Windows logs. So you don't want to put them on your IDS streams. Then we give it a time. I want to search this within the last minute. Has this happened, this failed logon? And I want to execute that search every minute. And then here we want to do it two different methods. One, filter, which means if the filter has results, every single failed logon message will then create an event. But I don't want to have so many events in my system, so I'm going to go to the aggregation side. And again, I'm saying if I see this within a 1 minute window, and then I come down here and I'm saying, well, if I see this SSH failed username, I want to group on it by the count, and if it is greater than 5, create me that event. So only if there's 5 failed logons within that 1 minute window will I create this event. Now once that event's created, I'm going to have some fields in here. So this field is pulling out the username itself. If I show you how it's created there, you give it a name that you want it presented to in the log message. You set it as a key because that's what we're correlating on. And then we say, I want to pull it out of this field in the original log message, source.sh fail username. So when you create that one, it's going to pull it off and put it into that the field message for use later. And then you can create a notification if you want. In this case, it's a generic event. I don't really need a notification. And then I'm going to have that summary so you can see kind of high level everything that's happening. All right. So that's the initial one. So after all the failed logons, I need to have a successful logon. So that's where the success comes in. So again, you give it a name and a priority. And then I come down here and I do the same thing. I'm looking for a logon. So I have mine when I successfully log on to a SSH box. This is the message I get. And when I see that successful log message, and this is happening again once every minute, I'm going to go ahead and create that event too. These other fields are just the same. Just to make sure we got the field here, you can see it's the same username that's tied in. That's that key that I'm correlating on. Okay. So now if I go back to here, I want to look at the brute force attack rule. And it's, again, you're going to give it a name. I'm going to pick the higher priority because it's something I want to be brought to my attention right away. I'm going to go this correlation side. And now instead of that filter and aggregation, I'm going to pick event correlation. And then if I scroll down here, you'll see that there's a preview over here so you can see kind of very high level what it's doing. But over here I'm going to say all this must be satisfied within a 5-minute window. The correlation query should run every minute. And the order in these events happen. It has to be a failed logon attempt, which is that 5+ failed logons. It needs to occur at least one time. And then it's followed by a successful logon that happens one time. And when I see that pattern, I'm going to go ahead and again do that the key correlation so we notice the username, and then I'm going to send some notifications. And that notifications then can end up on that alert page that I first showed, or if you guys want to put it something like a webhook, I can put it out here. And then here I would have a brute force attack type correlation with all the different metadata in there. And we can import that into any kind of JSON format that you guys would want to create your alerts. It could be Slack or anything similar to that. Okay, so that's that first type of a rule. That one is more if I've seen a certain aggregate number of events followed by a different event. The second one that I wanted to discuss a little bit is around Windows account modification and use. So if you think of a nefarious attacker, usually they break into a Windows system, they will try to create a backdoor, and maybe they create an account quick, they log on that account so no one knows who it is, they do some nefarious things, and then they go ahead and delete that account and then erase their tracks behind them, delete the event logs. But as you're collecting those logs in real time, we can then pull that data out and then create this 3-step approach. Right? We have a Windows account created rule, a Windows account authenticated, and then over here on my last page I have a Windows account deleted. And they're all very similar, so I won't go through each one individually, but it's just a filter rule again. It's looking through my Windows logs, and it's looking for specific event IDs. And then when I go to the field section, I'm going to pull out the username again. You can see here it's coming from the target username field on my log message, coming through my Windows log collector. And then when all 3 of those events are created, then you can come in and create your parent rule, your event correlation rule. So here I have again, Windows account was created, used, and deleted, high priority event. I want to go into this event correlation tab. And then again, I'm going to say this has to be done within 1 hour. Usually people won't do it in a few minutes. It might take them an hour to kind of run through this process. Again, adjust as you guys see fit. I'm going to run this one every minute though, so I know as soon as it happens. And then I'm looking for this 3-step approach. I had a Windows account created at least one time, followed by an authentication attempt at least one time, and then followed by that deleted event one time. And again, that quick picture over here. And then the rest of it's the same. You still have that correlation field of the username that's coming in. You get that notification either to your Slack channel or to your email if you'd like. And then the summary, you can see kind of everything that's happened. Now the third event here that I like to talk about, this one's going to be that negative log message. So if I have two events here, one is a web server start and one web server stop, very simple type of a rule. I'm going to give it a normal priority again just to make that event. And then I'm looking for the action of stopped on my web logs. So when I see that action stopped and I don't see a startup, I want to be alerted to it. So I create this correlation rule here that says, again, high priority. If I see this server stop but not start, I come into this correlation side and then I say, this should happen within a minute. If your processes might take 5 minutes to restart, you could adjust that. And then I want to see an event that says web server stop, happen one time, and followed by a web server start message. But in this case, I'm going to say it does not occur in the next 30 seconds. So in this case, if I don't see that start message happen within 30 seconds, I want to create that event or alarm happening. Again, just these however you see fit. But this one then would give you that message to say, hey, my server stopped, didn't start up. If I go over here to the key, in this case I don't really need a username like the previous examples, but I wanted more the source or the web server itself as it came in. And then I can go ahead and create those notifications in summary. Right. Notifications tab up here, I have a couple. This is the webhook that can inject it into a web page. You can set it up there. Or if you want to create a quick one here just around email, you can see that we can templatize a lot of that. So you can give it who the sender is, what recipient should get this one, and then create that template of exactly what fields you want inside of those logs. So that's the events correlation page and the different features inside of that. The one thing I did mention that I wanted to touch on quick is the streams. So I mentioned at the front where we look at the log messages as they come in. We take those logs and if they fire one of our event definitions, we put them into the all events category. So here you can see we have an all events now in 3.1. This is its own index set, so you can have different retention times on that. If you want to keep these for a year, whatever you'd like. But if you drill into these and you set your time frame of what you're looking for, you can see all the events that have happened. I'm going to pick that brute force one because that's a good example. You'll see the different fields. Now the raw log messages are not there, so that's why we've given these fields where you can pull off anything that you want and put them into this field section. So you could have the username, you could have the IP address, you could have the time of day or process or anything similar to that into that fields category for use. Now again, because these are inside of this event stream, we can also create complex correlation rules on top of it. So if you think of kind of our previous two examples that we had one where we created a Windows account, used it and deleted it, but maybe you want to know how did that person get on. So you could tie this and say, well, if I see a brute force attack against Windows, somebody's trying a password repetitively, eventually gets in, then they create this account. That's two different correlated rules you want to correlate into one. And you can do that through another complex correlation. Hopefully that explained a little bit about the correlation engine, the new features that came out in 3.1, and everything that you can do with them. Obviously, if you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And as always, happy logging.